Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel, Indian Cooks and Books. And today I am going to be talking to you about Asian Readathon. So let's get started without further ado. I think I have 30 books to recommend. I would like to quickly revise, in short, the prompts of this year's Asian Readathon. The first one is read a book by Asian author. Second one is read a book with an older female character. Third one is read a book that has a different world than yours. And fourth is read a book that is highly rated by a blogger or a vlogger, booktuber, somebody, your friend. The most fun prompt is a book that you have googly eyes for. So I have this one. Let's start with South Asian books. And this book is Hari Kunzru's Red Pill. Hari Kunzru is of South Asian Indian descent. And this book is quite trippy. It is about this man who is an author who goes to Germany and gets in quite an existential crisis there. I would recommend it if you want to go in like a spiral, kind of in a crazy dreamscape kind of thing. Would recommend it. I did enjoy it. Then the next book is Girls Burn Brighter. This has a beautiful cover as well. It's also set in India and by an Indian author, Shobha Rao, who writes about girls' plight in India and how some of the women are treated so horribly, and you should give it a try. It's not for the faint of the heart though. And then the next book, one of my personal favorites, it's called Girl in a White Cotton, but it is actually Avni Doshi's Burnt Sugar. In India they have published it with a different name for some reason, I don't know. It's a story of a toxic relationship with of a mother and daughter. You know it, I have talked about it hundreds and hundreds of times. Then the next book that I have for you is this one, Latitudes of Longings by Shubhangi Swarup. I'm kind of I haven't finished it all, but half of it that I have read is beautiful and the cover is beautiful. Look at this. I have googly eyes for this, and it is in a world where it's very different from my world. It's set in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the islands in the south of India, and it talks about these bizarre things like there is magical realism, ghosts, and stuff like that. Quite fun. Then another book that I would like to recommend is called Ravan and Eddie by Kiran Nagarkar, and it's also a book about these Indian children, and it's a lot of exploration of lot of social issues that were faced by Indian people back when India just got independence from colonization in 1940s, and it's interesting. Please check it out. The next book is called Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. I have lent my copy to somebody but I really liked it. It's dreamy. It's about Jhumpa Lahiri talks about this woman's journey in an unknown city, and she is kind of telling her story through these little vignettes, and it's beautiful. It's nice. The prose are beautiful. You should check it out definitely. Then the next one is China Room. It's by Sanjeev Sahota, and it also talks about, I think, pre-independent India. It's set in I think the state of Punjab, which is in the north of India, and it again talks about how these women are treated so horribly back in the day. And in the parallel story, there is a young man who is originally from India but has been brought up in the UK, comes back to India to find his roots, and then he discovers about this woman's horrible fate and story, and it was an interesting read, and I think it was shortlisted for International Booker last year. The Boat People by Sharon Bala. It talks about some Sri Lankan refugees who traveled to Canada by a boat, and it educated me and about the refugee crisis. And then there is a subplot about Japanese Canadian lawyer who is kind of in the court representing these refugees, Sri Lankan refugees, and how the Japanese had suffered back then and their immigration stories. They kind of focus a little bit on that as well, and it's quite interesting. You should check that one out as well. So now these are the South Asian books. Now let's go to Japanese books. I love Japanese books too. And one of the big ones that I read last year was Breast and Eggs by Kawakami Mieko. And she quickly has become one of my favorite authors. And it's a story of three women. One of them is, I think, in her 50s, one of them in 30s, and one of them is a teenager. And this will totally count towards the prompt of person, a protagonist who is a woman and who is older, and she lives in a totally different world of this hostess bars. Like in Japan, there is this underbelly of this like drinking, like alcohol kind of industry, where you go and men generally go and drink at these bars, where these hostesses job is to entertain them. Kind of demeaning work, but this protagonist, one of the protagonists, does that work, and it's very feminist. It's really lovely, and I really enjoyed it. And I read it kind of as an antidote to being a Murakami fan and how criticized Murakami Haruki was. And I think Murakami talked about this author and recommended her books. Another feminist Japanese author is Sayaka Murata, and I read Earthlings, and it's, oh my god, it's such a different book, and it's totally in a different world as well. Earthlings is literally about people who think they are aliens, and it's like so symbolically told. This story is told about these people who don't fit in with the human society. Earthlings, it's like I can relate to certain level that I don't exactly kind of fit in too much in the society that I live in. There needs to be some kind of reform, and these people do believe that this world is kind of like a baby making factory, and if you are of a certain age and don't give the world what they want, like being in a steady job or being a parent and contributing to the society, giving something back, unless and until you are doing that, you are kind of deemed as an outsider. And it talks about this in a very graphic way. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but like, oh my god, it was quite an experience. And talking about quite an experience, I would also like to recommend The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Oh my god, look at this cover. I mean, this cover was amazing too. Like, look at this cute little like creature. It's very cute, but it's like horrifying. The story is horrifying. The cover is quite like, I have googly eyes for it. And this one has like a very beautiful kind of shiny cover too. And it's about this woman who turns vegetarian overnight, throws away all the meat from the freezer, fridge, etc. And then it's kind of punished for it. Like her family kind of stages an intervention and is like, you, why are you doing this? Why are you not eating meat? Etc. etc. Then I don't have the physical copies of the other books, but Kawakami's two other books that I read were fantastic as well. The first one was Heaven, and it talks about bullying, and it talks about these two high schoolers, a girl and a boy, who are bullied very badly in their school, and how they become friends, and how they kind of dream of this kind of utopia, heaven, kind of where things are alright, and people kind of know what is right and what is wrong, but in reality it's not like that. And I would recommend that book 100%. Then the next one that I read from her is a very cute story called Miss Ice Sandwich, and this the cover is also really cute, and it's about this woman who sells ice cream sandwiches or general sandwiches at the sandwich counter, deli counter in a supermarket, and this little boy who is like in a middle school, I think, who goes to the supermarket just to see this woman every day, and she's wearing this blue like eyeshadow, I think, and he's like obsessed with her makeup and everything, and it's like told through again the child's point of view, but it tackles some very difficult themes, like again, uh, like there is a theme of this woman not fitting in the society. I think she has had a some sort of cosmetic surgery, and she's kind of gossiped about because of that for some reason. It didn't make it too clear, but then there are other themes also, like grief and loss of a parent, and yeah, and friendship. Again, it's very cute story. It's eccentric, but it's very cute, so I would recommend. Then let me talk about some other books. Sayaka Murata's Convenience Store Woman is fantastic as well. It talks about this 36-year-old Japanese woman who works in a convenience store, and it's not considered to be a real job. It's considered to be like a placeholder for somebody who is in between jobs, or like a younger student who wants to get a real job after graduating from university, etc. I myself went to school in Japan for a couple of years, and for 6 to 7 months, I was also a convenience store human, and I used to work in a convenience store, so I could relate to that part of the book. But the book is again about not fitting in, and not being able to fulfill all the expectations of the society that they put on people for no reason, no apparent reason. Enjoyed it quite a lot. It was really nice. It was like a tamer version of this one, Earthlings. If you don't want to like emotionally scar yourself, read that one. If you're okay with emotional scars, check out the content warnings and read this one. The next one that I would like to recommend is Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. So there's a fun fact. Katie Kitamura is actually Hari Kunzuru, who wrote Red Pill's spouse. They are married. I found out quite recently, and I was like, whoa, that's such a bizarre coincidence. I like both of their books. Intimacies is about an interpreter who works for, I think, United Nations or some like international court where international war criminals are tried for their war crimes, etc., etc. And then she also is like forming these new relationships in this foreign country that she lives in. She gets a job in that court, and that's also something happening in her life, and she is struggling sometimes to form intimate relationships, loss of a parent, and thinking about intimacy. It's a very reflective, interesting sounding book, so you should check it out. Okay, the other Japanese books I have are Murakami Haruki books that you probably know. After Dark is a book about this girl who goes out, and I think she's running away from her home or something, and she stays out for a whole night, and the events that happen in that night after dark, she encounters so many different things, and it's really interesting. It's a short one. I would recommend it, but there are like bigger ones that I want to recommend. One of the most famous being 1Q84 by Murakami Haruki. It's a dystopian novel where there are two moons, and there are two point of views of this man and a woman. The woman is a very, very effective assassin, and the man is, I don't even remember what he did. I think he was like a mathematics teacher or something like that. It was so interesting, and I remember faintly reading it, but I don't remember actually reading it. but I would recommend it, and it's like a 1300 pages. But if you want to give it a go to some kind of huge books, then please go for it. Then another huge one is Killing Commanditore by Haruki Murakami. It's again talking about this teenage girl and this middle-aged man who is staying at a friend's house, and then a lot of paranormal activities start going down, and this girl goes missing, and things bizarre things ensue. Interesting one. Again, I liked it. I think I gave it a 5 star. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was a ride. It was a good enjoyable book. Then there is another one which I remember being incredibly sad, that was called South of the Border, West of the Sun. I really don't remember it much about this book. I don't know why I am recommending it, but I have an impression in my head that it is really, really sad, but I remember it being pretty good. So if you are into something sad and good, check it out. Okay, so I think these were the Japanese. No, there is another one. There is one called Fault Lines by Emily Itami, and it's about a housewife in Tokyo who kind of is not in love with her husband and falls in love with another man, and she also has to look after their children, and she's quite depressed, and her story. And the part that I liked about this is how she interacts with the foreigners in Tokyo, and what kind of faux pas that foreigners commit, and how she teaches them not to do that, or how little like she gives them like a little mame chishiki, or like little fun facts trivia about Japan. I really quite enjoyed those things because I first hand experienced those things. Another Japanese book, How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. And I gave this one a 4 star. I think it was again very, very imaginative about pandemic again, a virus destroys lives. I talked about this in my previous video. I'll link it somewhere. And it's told through some connected short stories, and it's really interesting. I liked it. I liked the imagination. Then again, another depressing book. Oh my god, there are too many Japanese books, but I kind of enjoy Japanese books a lot, so bear with me. Another Japanese book called No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. It's a classic Japanese novel about again a person who is born in a rich family, a rich man's boy, but doesn't seem to be too interested in following in his father's footsteps, wants to be an artist, doesn't really want to do anything, and doesn't want to really take any responsibility. So he's kind of like shunned, kind of gradually shunned from the society, and he almost kind of feels like he's no longer a human. Very depressing, very sad. Beware if you decide to read it. And then the next one is Higashino Keigo's Malice. It's a closed door mystery, a little different like turn of events, but Keigo Higashino is also a really fun author to read, and Malice is such a fun story. It's like about this author's murder, and they go in and read his unfinished manuscript of a novel or something, and try to find clues about who might have murdered him or something. It was really fun. And then there is another one by Keigo Higashino. This one is called Salvation of a Saint, and it's again about murder and how to get away with a murder. I will just say that, and it was quite fun. Like, it was not about who done it was why done it. Good one. Then the last Japanese book I'll talk about in this video is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. It's a manga. It's an illustrated version of this book, and you might have seen the show already, but This manga was really cute and really easy to read. So if you want to read something easy, go for it. And it has a cute cover also. Then let's we are in a last final stretch of the recommendations part. There is another book that I read this year. I think the first book I read this year, and it is called Reprieve by James Han Matson. I gave it a 4.25 stars. It's amazing. It's like genre bending. It is horror, but it is also like a social commentary. So what I was talking about is Reprieve by James Han Matson, and it's about racism against Asian people, against black people, and it's like a horror. It talks about this. This story is about a haunted house, like attraction kind of place, like a escape room, and uh, stuff happens. It goes down and people get like killed and stuff, or somebody gets killed. It's very interesting. It's not just horror, not just a murder mystery. It has so much dynamic things going on. It's really unique and interesting book. I would highly recommend it. Then there is another book that I talked about in my last video, which was Severance, and Severance is written by Ling Ma. I gave it 4.5 star. Again, it's a pandemic novel. If you want to hear more about it, please check out my last video. And it's about this woman who is one of the last ones who is not affected by this pandemic, survivors of this virus pandemic, and she is exploring why, and she joins this like band of little group of survivors, and then tries to figure out life afterwards. Then last two ones, I would not recommend them very highly, but I would like to recommend them because they are from different Asian countries, and one of the things Cindy said in her video was to read from Asian authors of different ethnicities, and the penultimate book, the second to last book, is called Homeless by Liana Damira, and she is from Singapore, if I'm not wrong, and it's a non-fiction book about her few days of her and her family being homeless. Singapore seems like a very rich country, and people don't seem to be facing too much poverty there from outside, but this woman is faced with homelessness, and she tells about her experience of going through it and how she dealt with it. And the last one I did not enjoy. I don't know why am I recommending it. I'm just recommending it because it is written by a Vietnamese American author, and I don't have any other books from any Vietnamese authors that I could recommend. I haven't read, unfortunately, but and I don't like romance. It's me problem. It's not this author's problem probably. But The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hong is my last book. I gave it 2 stars. It's a romance book about this woman who is very smart but very inexperienced, so she hires an escort, and then they fall in love and break a lot of professional boundaries and personal ones, and then everything is nice in the end. Like romance books, I just love them. Not okay. So these are the books that I have read and I would like to recommend to you. Now you will ask me, what are you going to be reading for the Asian Readathon? I will tell you. Let me tell you. I have some options. I am going to be reading The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's a story about a butler. I'm not sure. It's a story about a butler, but I haven't really read too much about it. And then there is this book called Afflictions. The Afflictions by Vikram Paralkar, and he's also from India, Mumbai, and lives in the US. I think he's a doctor, and this is like a medical fiction. historical. I don't know what exactly this is again, but it seems really interesting. So, and some of the covers are amazing. This one is also good, but there are some other covers. They are like really, really googly eyed covers for me. Then again, I have some other options. Ted Chiang's Exhalation. That cover also like attracted me. Then there is another book that I am thinking of reading. It's called How to Pronounce Knife, and it's a short book and it's horror. I think I forgot the name of the author. I will put it here. I'm sorry. I think it is by a Thai author. I have never read any books from Thailand. I want to read that one or listen to it on audiobook, and then I'm going to listen to Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh. She is an American author, but she is half Iranian, I think, I believe, and Iran is also a part of Asia. If it's like it's a fun fact for you. And another fun fact, me and Otessa Moshfegh share our birthdays with each other. So that was a pleasant surprise I got when I was researching her background. And then there are some books that didn't quite make it. There is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, and I've read like 100 pages, but I don't think I will read this in May, in the month of May. But I will be reading these two, and Eileen and How to Pronounce a Knife for sure. And if I get a chance, I think I might read some other books as well. There are some other ones on my radar too. Please recommend a couple of Asian books if you have any. Then again, like some honorable mentions that I won't be keep picking up the next month. It's called The Wish Maker by Ali Sethi. It's a Pakistani author. He's also actually a very, very well known singer, and I knew him. I didn't know that he was an author. I just knew him as a singer, but I found out that he had written a novel, so I picked it up, but I will not be reading it this month. Then there is another one. There is this one called Better to Have Gone, and it's about this utopian community of Orville, which is in near Chennai, near Pondicherry, in Pondicherry, I think, and it's a non-fiction by Akash Kapoor about these deaths that occurred in Orville. And the last one is Everyday Ayurveda. It's by Dr. Bhaswati Bhattacharya, and it talks about everyday habits to be incorporated in your life in order to live life in Ayurvedic way. It seems very useful. I will be picking it up, but not next month, unfortunately. So these were the books that I wanted to talk to you about, and I would really love it if you could recommend more Asian books to me. And there is another readathon going on by Sant Reads Smriti, and it's called Getting Lit with Indian Literature. And I think until the end of May, she has asked us to read Indian literature. So I will be reading some Indian books like this one. It's written in English, it's not translated, but she, I think, asked for translated fiction. I will figure out some book that is translated. I really, really would like to read Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shri, but I have this book buying ban on myself, so I don't know. But let's see. I'm rambling, and this video is already really long, so I will cut this short now. And I had really, really fun talking about all these books. And let me know what books are you going to be reading in the month of May, and join us in Asian Readathon. I will see you in the comments first and then in the next video. Until then, bye, take care.